You're now listening to the Engage the Rockies podcast, your go-to podcast for local and state issues concerning Colorado.
Hello, Rockies. This is Sarah Jane Maroney, your host for Engage the Rockies, your go-to podcast concerning local and state issues for Colorado. Welcome to the second full week of January in 2025. Lots to cover today. First up, the e-bike debate. It's back. And I still haven't figured out which e-bike does what. Probably need to get on that. But basically, on Tuesday's city council meeting, two former city councilors came and spoke at the public comment timing and said basically that changes in technology don't allow a bypassing of Tabor in terms of the Trails, Open Space, and Parks the TOPS program. So there's a suggestion that they should put this on the ballot. Previously, the city staff said that it would be required to be on the ballot, and it was a new proposal from the mayor's office that instead proposed to change the city code to define which classes of bikes and e-bikes and non-motorized vehicles would be allowed. This is where we got bogged down with this confusion because I still don't know the difference. And a date has not been announced for a final vote on any ordinances, but a ballot measure would need to be approved by the end of January in order to appear on the April 1st ballot.
Fire mitigation crews from the Colorado Springs Fire Department Wildlife Mitigation Section have begun work. This is in Stratton Open Space and Palmer Park. And they have not been worked on in 8 years. Corey Ashby is the Wildlife Program Administrator, and he talked about removing 267 acres, removing half of the oak tree biomass across 267 acres in the Stratton Open Space. At any rate, they are working through this, and the focus here is because this is quite near the South Suburban Reservoir and the Gold Camp Reservoir, which are two major sources of drinking water for Colorado Springs utilities. I'll read you a quote from Mr. Ashby. "We realize there doesn't need to be heterogeneity. It doesn't have to be uniform because that's not what a forest is." I had to look up what heterogeneity means. It is the quality or state of being diverse in character or content. So thank you, Mr. Ashby. I hand it to you for expanding our vocabulary. They will be working on the Bludget Open Space later on this year. In school news, Colorado Springs private and parochial schools post enrollment gains. And actually, on Wednesday, there was a release of official enrollment for the academic year for the state education department, which we'll talk about in a minute. But basically, this particular article cited 3 or 4 different parochial and private schools in the Colorado Springs area, which have all had gains. They particularly spoke with the Colorado Springs Christian schools. I think we know it locally as CSCS, that they have had gains every year since COVID. And they spoke as well with the Colorado Springs School, a private day school, again, quite a lot of students and quite a lot of gains. And the Springs Baptist Academy that has seen its largest enrollment ever. They're also closing a school. And what is being cited is changing neighborhood demographics as their decision to shut the 70-year-old Divine Redeemer Catholic School in May. And they are hoping that they can just sort of redistribute those students, and those parents and students are checking out other schools. So moving on to this report that was released on Wednesday. So D49 last year added 850 students over the past school year. And after having trailed D20 for 5 years, they have finally surpassed them. There's only an 80 student difference between the two. So congratulations to D49 taking that top slot away from D20. However, the state totals for pre-kindergarten through 12th grade students is now 881,065, which is the lowest recorded count since 2013. So, as we stated previously, all of these private and parochial schools are all increasing. According to state data, Harrison D2, Hanover D28, and D49 are the only 3 districts who have gained students over the past 5 years in a row. And this year, yet again, 479 fewer students in D11. The Denver Public School Boards have unanimously voted to close 7 schools and restructure 3 others in December in response to declining enrollment. At a press briefing following the data's release on Wednesday, the Colorado Education Commissioner Susanna Cordova, pointed out that while the department currently has fewer of the stories behind the data, they think that the addition of immigrant students probably had an impact on the metro areas. So returning to Colorado Springs, in development news, this is a tad confusing, but basically there is a new development called Carmen, with a K, line that after a marathon meeting on Tuesday, the Colorado Springs City Council voted 7-2 to approve annexation. This is our flagpole line here again that we were finding out about with the Buc-ee's and Monument. They are annexing a property slated for 6,500 homes in a portion of unincorporated El Paso County, which would then become part of the city. What's interesting is that they talk about a different project that looked originally like it was going to get annexed by the city of Fountain, but then plans fell through over water availability. In 2023, Colorado Springs passed an ordinance requiring the city to maintain 128% of its water demand. Utilities decided on both in the previous development and this Carmen line would allow the city to stay within that rule, but they would ultimately need thousands more acre per feet of water per year to support itself in the future, which is part of why they're complaining. Well, citizens are complaining or saying this shouldn't be approved. There are also farmers from the lower Arkansas River Valley. They spoke out against the development last time and are saying that this project currently could jeopardize 5,000 to 6,000 acres of agricultural production. The article goes on quite a lot of back and forth about different votes for each of the different developments, but this is all pending, and basically Carmen Line has passed 7-2 its first set of potential in terms of the annexation. Our final article, I'll read you the title: Democratic lawmakers aim to expand price gouging protections for necessities in Colorado. This is House Bill 1010, and as I've explained before, you can go to coleg.gov, type in HB 1010, and actually look this up and figure out what it exactly says. This is sponsored by Democratic lawmakers Representative Brown, Representative Zokai, I think that's right, I apologize if I'm getting that wrong, and Senator Weissman, and it is going to prohibit price gouging on necessities. The sponsor of the bill basically highlighted that everything is getting more expensive and that she wants to make sure that there's no gouging on unfair increases on necessities. And bill is going to act as a deterrent to bad actors. She said, quote, "Just the fact that we have set a standard and said that this is not something that businesses can engage in and that they have to actually be able to show why their prices need to go up, I think that will act as a deterrent in itself. But we will also work with the Attorney General's office to see what support they need to enforce it," end quote. Engage the Rockies exists because we believe in limited government, free markets, and individual freedoms. Maybe we should dig further into this bill. And those are the top stories for the second week of January for 2025.
Thank you for listening to the Engage the Rockies podcast, your go-to podcast for local and state issues concerning Colorado.